So hi and welcome back to another episode of Geekified. I am here with Nathan and we are here with a new host. We have got Nick here as well.
How you doing, guys? Glad to be on.
So as you've probably seen from the title, it was just released on Friday night. We have got the Jamie Foxx and Joseph Gordon-Levitt led Project Power has just dropped on Netflix. By the time I was finished, I noticed that it was #1 in the UK just now, and I believe it's #1 in the US as well. It looked like it was going to be an absolutely smash fire hit. I don't know how anyone else is feeling about the film. I know how I'm feeling, and I sense a pattern on my reviews. But hey, let's not just dwindle on what I'm going to say. So we will go straight over to Nathan for a quick summary of what he thought about the film.
I'm a bit conflicted by it because I thought that some of it was really good and some of it was atrocious. Like the action scenes and the bits when they take their pill for the 5 minutes, those bits are really, really good. The bit with the guy when he catches Newt and he takes the 3 and he blows that. That's awesome, that bit. And I thought this is going to be really good. And then it just sort of fizzled along, and it sort of not a lot happened. And they have about 5 minutes of really good stuff, and then not a lot happens again after that. To the point where I was sort of towards the end, I wasn't really paying that much attention to it. I think I sent you a text when I was watching it saying it sort of reminded me of a cross between Michael Bay and John Singleton film. It's sort of like they just sort of mashed all this stuff together. A couple of Anthony Fuqua, slow motion walks and blowing up, and I don't think it had a great identity. I mean, I enjoyed watching it. I just didn't think it was anything spectacular.
Right. Before we delve into anything else about it, we'll go over to Nick. Rick, what do you think, buddy?
Yeah, I thought it was okay. As Nathan said, some of it was pretty awful. Some of it was good. I think the CGI was really good considering, especially when the girl's in the chamber doing the thermogenesis sort of thing.
Yeah.
That was really cool when she also goes through the heat and like ice all the glass and stuff like that. That stuff was pretty cool, but the rapping and stuff was terrible. Just utter terrible.
It was. Do you know what? When that rapping little segment came on, I cringed. I almost forgave it when it came back to the point of where it was just obviously her in her head, but it was still too cringe. We never managed to save it. It just felt as if, can we shoehorn some sort of culture in here for absolutely no reason? It just didn't feel right.
Very, very cliched. You've seen so many of these. It's like, because we've got an African American character in it, they have to be either a drug dealer or a rapper or both.
Yeah.
And that's what they happen to be. I was a bit like, I'm not sure if that's, just sort of like very cliched. I find it.
Well, it's one of the things I want to talk about in this film in general and I can pretty much start with that, the amount of awful cliches that happen in this film, the amount of things that you just, I think I've got it all written down. You've got the villain. I was hoping Tony was here, and when he sees this, he actually had the exact same mustache as the villain just a couple of weeks ago. And I thought the guy getting a mustache like that for being the villain is such a cliche. You see it in all the films. I've not even wrote them all down. I wrote one. I probably fell asleep when I was writing them. That's probably why. But there was so many things that happened, like that being at the end on the boat. Because these things always seem to happen on a boat. You know what I mean? I felt like I was watching something from Steven Seagal from the 80s. Yeah. I mean, it's always that kind of thing that happens. It's always there. There was so many. I will, if I can remember any more as we're going through this, I'll list them. But
I thought you had the Jason. I always get his name the wrong way around. Levitt.
Levitt, yeah.
Jason Gordon-Levitt. I mean, he was such quite a cliche character as well. A slightly off the beaten track cop trying his best to help people out, gets his badge taken away from him nearly, sort of thing. And even Jamie Foxx's character, out for vengeance because of what's happened to his family. It's just seen it all before.
I think one of them I've got written down is it's always in alleys. I don't know how many things happen in that film that happen to be in an alley. And you're like, and I ended up actually spent most of the film picking out mistakes that they'd made. I was going to watch and stuff going, oh, you've not got that right. You've not got that right. Like it was when Newt blows up in the kind of first thing. He blew up downstairs. He dropped down 4 floors to get to the bottom floor. The explosions on the roof. And he's walking away because he's just like, I can't really forgive you for that. I'm sorry. Whoever, I've actually looked at the directors, but we'll get into that in a wee sec. But yeah, I think that for me, it was one of those films where it got lost in its cliches for me. There was just so many things that happened that were similar to other random action.
There was one point I thought it was trying too hard to be a cross between Jacob's Ladder and the Manchurian Candidate as well.
You're putting it up into relatively high.
No, I'm saying it was trying to be a bad version. It's like suddenly he's a guy who was in the army who got tested on. You know, that's basically the premise of both those films. We were a bit very good films, but I just thought we were trying too hard to be 10 different things all at once.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me that's a strong cast, very very strong cast. You've got Jamie Foxx, who's good in almost everything apart from Spider-Man, which I'm just trying to forget that character that was done.
Not great in stealth either.
Aye, what else was there? Yeah, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, great in everything he does. You know what I mean? And I did like. I don't know if any of you noticed it. There was a wee nod to. There was 2 nods, I think, to films having a character called Robin. Obviously, he was Robin at the end of Dark Knight. And then there was also the bit on the boat where he has the fight with the guy with the beard, and they're in the corridor, and it was the exact same corridor. It was like a kind of corridor, so they're obviously copying the fight in Inception. So as they were doing it, the whole thing tipped and spinned. It was exactly the same as his fight in Inception. So I've seen 2 wee nods to that. But for me, and this is also kills a lot of the magic of some films, you shouldn't do that. Do your own thing. Don't do nods just because you've got a character in a film. You know what I mean? That's kind of like when I seen that, I kind of went, oh, there's a wee nod to Inception. Oh, that was a nod to Inception. Why are you doing that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It kind of lost its touch for me. I was a wee bit disappointed with that.
Yeah, I think the acting for a lot of it is cardboard as well. Like Joseph Gordon-Levitt, obviously he's good in what he does, but he plays roughly the same character and everything.
Yeah.
The only one that he's kind of changed his role as well. So the one he was in with Scarlett Johansson, can never remember the name of it.
Don John.
Yeah,
that one. And I'm absolutely crap with names, but he plays roughly the same character and everything.
Yeah.
But it's as if Jamie Foxx is like, he's done his big blockbuster with Just Mercy, and then he was just like, he got offered this, and he's like, I'll do it for the bands. And he's like, there's no a lot of effort put into it, to be honest. I just think like the acting and the wee lassie as well, just the whole thing was very cardboard and kind of cringeworthy at points. But it's one of the ones, I think with Netflix movies, they try and mix that whole fun element into them to make them watchable for everybody, rather than just for the people of the sort of genres that it's aiming for. But it's one of the sort of things where it's a half and half thing, but I did feel the acting was pretty wooden at points, and the bit when he gets his badge taken away as well, when he's like got the hat and he whips at the wee thing with Jamie Foxx in his military uniform and everything.
That was one of my cliches. That was one that I did actually have down, was obviously the police officer getting his badge and his gun. You know what I mean? Badge and the gun on the table. That's not how that works. That's not how that works. Yeah, you have to fill out lots of really boring forms to get your badge and your gun taken off of you. Yeah. It has to be done in front of witnesses. You don't just sit in a bloody cafe at a crime scene going, put your badge and the gun on the table, son, that's you're fired. You know what I mean? Yeah. Then it just felt, people, I think a lot of filmmakers, especially these two directors from this film, I wouldn't say they're new, but they started a lot, which I think I can tell from the style of what they've done with a lot of the stuff. A lot of I think it was adverts and short films. So you can tell a lot of the kind of style, the way they've shot, like the car chases. I mean, some of this stuff was shot like really, really well, but it didn't match with a lot of the other things I felt you were seeing. Like Jamie Foxx, when he was just before he met the young girl at the cafe, he was swapping his shirt, but the way that it was shot, you had it was almost shot through the arm of somebody, like across, and you could kind of just see him, and then it kind of pans out and it stepped back a wee bit. But then it just went to a kind of rubbish shot in the cafe, and you're thinking, if you're going to do that, if you're going to use like sort of kind of styles of like Seamus McGarvey and anyone like any of the Tom Ford films, if you're going to do any of that, keep it consistent. Keep films exactly the same, and I think that's like where it does come across. Now, again, it lost it for me. I'm being hypercritical with it because at the end of the day, it's a popcorn film.
Yeah.
I've probably been hypercritical, but that's what we're here for. This is Geekified.
One of the big things I found was even in sort of, well, I don't know if you class them more sort of the B movie type films like this, you know, things like Losers or things like that.
Yeah.
They're great, not saying they're not good films, but it's more of a sort of not so well known films of this sort of type, sort of action, comic book type things. The bad guys normally develop really well through the film, even if they're not great films. But in this one, every time they fought and got a new bad guy, he popped a pill and he was dead after 3 minutes. So they weren't.
Yeah.
They said they were wiping out whole police like precincts, and then but they all managed to kill them straight away. So I just sort of thought the only person who had a really powerful power was Jamie Foxx at the end when he was like a human explosion.
Yeah, it's like plasma he was firing, wasn't it? He was firing plasma everywhere. Spoiler alert. Sorry, I will put a spoiler alert.
And then they had I also get the sort of French guy at the start, and he was obviously through the film as a sort of the go-between the women and the other people. And he's a good actor. I can't remember what I've seen him in now, but I know he's quite a good actor.
Westworld. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it was. And I thought, he's quite a cool character, but then even him, they killed him really easily.
Yeah, it was a bit rubbish. I think and also his power was just, again, it was another kind of cliche. He just became a big monster.
Yeah.
And I was kind of expecting him to have something really cool. He's a villain. Give him something cool. And his just arm went a bit wonky and went a bit big and smashed things.
And he died straight away.
Yeah. It was just a B movie Hulk. You know what I mean? It didn't work. But I think, do you know where my disappointment stemming from the film? Because it was still an enjoyable film and I still got to the end and thought, yeah, that was okay. I think my disappointment for this film is it could have been something amazing. This could have been the birth of an entire universe of films of people without spoiling too much of another show, The Boys. That's kind of almost the same story. This is like maybe pre The Boys, like the Compound V that they use in it, because it's the same idea. It's a drug that is used. So I feel like this could have been the birth of a really, really interesting franchise of just people using the pills.
I mean, the premise behind the film's great. You can take this pill and for 5 minutes you've got a power, and sometimes it's going to be good, sometimes it's going to be bad. That's a really cool idea, but it just felt like it was a short film that they stretched out into 2 hours.
Yeah, definitely feel it. I think there's one of the shots that I think is probably one of the best shots I've seen in a lot of films recently, apart from the artistic side, was with the girl in the cage that's turning to ice.
Yeah,
that was very, very good. There was the bits when she's putting her hand on the glass and the camera would pan up to the glass, and obviously looking out of glass you can only see like the kind of a certain perspective. So all you could see was Jamie Foxx's character kind of jumping on people and shooting, and as she's coming out and then moving into the next panel of glass, it was Jamie Foxx on top of another person kind of shooting. It was very, very well shot. And if my Xbox wasn't practically on fire halfway through trying to watch that, I would have rewound it and watched that again as well. But it was very, very well put together. But does that work? That's what I feel. It's like just an amazing shot like that. That should be scattered through your entire film. You should have that sort of art running through the film, and it just didn't. It just felt underwhelming.
I thought the bit when Newt first takes the pill and like bursts into flame was quite cool as well.
Yeah.
And the close-up shot was in the trailer of the guy getting shot in the head and it popping out. I thought, like I said, there was these really quite cool little bursts of things, and then just the filler in between didn't match up to the action scenes and the cool scenes and stuff like that they had.
Yeah. So my question that I've got for you guys now is really kind of about genre films. Like, are we going to look back at the 2010s up to 2020 and like the next while now and be saying that this is like old crap action films of the 80s? When we talk about right now, we talk about like I just mentioned Steven Seagal, Jean-Claude Van Damme. Are we going to be looking back at the films and be calling them Netflix action films and just be saying it's tacky action?
Pretty much, I think, yeah.
Yeah.
I think, so the last one was Will Smith as well. It was the last sort of major Netflix thing that film-wise that came out. with sort of a big, massive star in it, and that wasn't too great either. So I do think it is going to be a case of the Netflix films that are, action based or sci-fi based. I think they all will just get grouped into this one big bubble, and then it's just going to be a case of you're bored in the house and you need something to watch, and you're just going to go on it and watch it, but there's no real interest or intent behind it, like you would if you were going to go and watch like an Inception or the Dark Knight trilogy, where there's a legitimate intent and feeling towards those films. But with that, it's just going to be one of the ones where you just think your missus or your mates, you just watch that for 2 hours to kill time.
Yeah,
there's not going to be that emotion or that immersion that you get with these other films that stand out. It's like Seven, for example, like that film with Kevin Spacey and all that, and Morgan Freeman. That is in my opinion, one of those masterpiece movies that no matter what age you are, and you've seen it, you've actually been affected by it, and you've got that immersion and that feeling with it. I don't think you'll have that with these Netflix movies. You're just it's going to be batted to the side, and it's going to be something, it's going to be like Disney Plus style. It's going to be there, but nothing really major on it, sort of thing.
Yeah.
I think it's because you don't have to, you pay your Netflix subscription every month, but the Netflix as a studio doesn't have the film doesn't have to be that good because people are going to watch it anyway. They're not, and then even if you don't watch it 2 or 3 times, it doesn't really matter because they're not getting extra money for it. Something like, the bit like you're talking about, the big sort of especially during the sort of late 90s into the 2000s and up to maybe 2015, all the big movies then, they had to go to the cinema and they had to make money, so they had to be good.
Mm-hmm.
But now, I think Netflix have made very few really good films. I think they make a lot of stuff now, and a lot of it is it's crap. Not crap. Crap's the wrong word. It's okay. It's like B movie. It's like B movie stuff, but with really good actors in it.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. They're making films, but they're just want to churn them out without putting a great deal of talent in it. But the talent's there, but I think you're right in saying they're not crap. They're definitely not crap films because I enjoyed watching it, enjoyed the action. I really enjoyed the story. It was just disappointment of some parts of it, of what we just discussed. Like I would have loved that to become a big franchise.
And just maybe it'll do the same sort of thing maybe it'll end up developing a bit like HBO has with their or AMC and the big sort of like cable network channels where their TV's got better over the years as they've come to understand what they're doing more, and maybe that will happen with Netflix eventually with their movies. I mean, like you said, there's been a few, like Nick was saying about the Will Smith when he did that. He Bright, wasn't it? He did, which was a great premise. And I enjoyed that film, but it just wasn't great. And there's lots of films like that. The Cloverfield Paradox. It was okay, just wasn't as good as the other two in the series.
Oh, no, it wasn't. I'm going to absolutely solidly disagree with you. The Cloverfield Paradox was the biggest pile of steaming hot garbage I've ever watched. I mean, I didn't
mind it. It wasn't the other two, but it was okay.
Mess. Absolute. It's not very often I get angry for a film, and I was like, I don't want to watch this. And it dropped right on Netflix. It was a complete and utter surprise when they did it. They put the Super Bowl trailer on. That was the first time you seen it, and it was available that minute, which was the first time it was ever done. So I applaud Netflix for managing to do that kind of style. That was insanely good. But you did it with a pile of garbage. You know what I mean? It was a hot mess, man. It was just looked great, but it was just riotous. I'm sorry. But that's film's subjective. That's why we're here. To discuss and see how we get on with stuff. But so I think all for me, like, the one good thing that was in it that I really enjoyed was the music. There was some really good, a couple of good tunes in it.
Yeah, there was.
Yeah. But
I like the sort of that rap that came on about halfway through, and they had the sort of Scatman, but slowed down version of
the yeah. I don't actually know who that was. I could have looked that up, but it was quite cool. It was when she was riding her bike, wasn't it? I think it was through something. I
mean, it was quite stylistic. There was quite a lot of night. It had quite a cool look to it, but they just didn't do enough with it. Like you said, the set pieces were really good. But and they had like lots of good contrast and the colouring and stuff like that. But it just, just lost it. I think the dialogue wasn't great. I think for me that's what it was. The dialogue from, especially when the main characters, they're good at, like you said, they're top A-list actors, and just they obviously weren't given a particularly great script to work with. I mean, I didn't even recognise that. I saw who wrote it, but I can't even remember because I didn't recognise the name. No. And I didn't recognise the directors. It was 2 directors, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's a team. Supermarché, they call themselves.
Yeah.
It's a girl and a guy, James Hust and Ariel something, I can't remember her name.
Never heard. Are they French, or have they come from Europe or something? Or?
I think they're American. Just off the top of my head, I don't know about them a lot about them, but they did the film Nerve.
I've heard of it.
Yeah. Questionable. It was, again, popcorn film, you know what I mean? On Netflix, it was just good. It's super stylized, but very lack of content. You can, let's say, you can polish a turd, but it's always going to be a turd in it.
I think going back to the Netflix thing, maybe we're getting to the stage like it was back in, what they call the golden age of Hollywood, where they would go in and film a movie a week, and it would go out on, because no one had TVs at home, they had to go to cinema to watch things. And maybe we're getting back to that stage with all the different, and almost everybody now has got a platform, even down to the Ryan Reynolds joke one. He's got a platform just because everybody else has,
Exactly. It was very, very, very funny. I think, again, just leading into the parts of disappointment of where I was kind of a wee bit disappointed at the end was the villain woman, who I can't remember her name because there was no point in remembering his name. Whenever the arc of every villain was just dead by the end. But she started to discuss, which I think would be like a really good premise if we could ground it, was Henrietta Lacks with the DNA story. That's a true story. That's a story of a woman. Her cells are actually used in medicine. They have been used in medicine for a long, long time. You know what I mean? I was like, that's brilliant. The fact you put that in there, you put something about a really curious thing about the cells. She's got it's like the immortal cell, or it's called Hela or something like that.
Yep.
That's what an interesting fact to put in the film when this is the kind of stuff we're discussing. But again, nothing wasn't enough to spice it up. You know what I mean? It was just there, just flooding us with wee bits of info. It's a bit sad when you have to kind of finish a review, isn't it? You're kind of getting to the end and you're kind of going...
It's Netflix, so there'll be a sequel.
Is there a sequel?
If it's done well, you'll find that they'll probably do one. If they get enough views, then they'll probably do something. It had the feel... You know what? Thinking about it more, it had a feeling of a pilot episode of a TV show.
Yeah. Very unsure what they're doing, kind of way, the kind of vibe. I think,
but once again, I've read a few reviews, and a lot of the critics enjoyed it. So maybe it's just us who doesn't understand movies and cinema.
I think it might be bad, but see, at the end of the day, like, we're the people that are watching them, Nathan, and that's one of the strongest reasons of why I made this channel, because we are just random geeks who watch and look at films. You know what I mean? So we give a very, very honest opinion. So I never looked at that there. If you give me just 1 second, guys, and I'll just going to pull up the scores. Right, so I've checked the scores, and as usual when we're doing this, we like to predict how we feel. And again, I don't get part of this. I used to get to do this. So I want your IMDb, your Rotten Tomatoes, and your Google score to see what it's currently sitting at right now. So Nathan, go for it.
IMDb 7.2. They do points, don't they?
Points, yep. It's up to 10 and it's points, yep.
Rotten Tomatoes 70. And Google.
That's out of 5, Google.
5. 3.
Yeah, so it's points. You can have a point if you want in between.
3.1.
3.1. Cool. So I'll put your scores up next to you. Nick, what are you going for? IMDb?
IMDb, I'm just going to say it's probably like 6.7. I think we probably, because they kind of have they don't really go too far up high, and they don't score things too low. They kind of like to keep it down the medium. So I find for the scoring, Rotten Tomatoes, I'd probably say it's probably going to be up at that 68 to 70% as well.
Okay.
And with Google, I'm going to go on a limb and say it's like a 2.3 or something out of 5. I'm just going to go right on the limb there.
Well, your scores are a wee bit. Ooh. You're not far off, to be honest. So IMDb 6.1.
Oh, come on.
Yeah. 6.1. That's You went higher than that, Nathan. Rotten Tomatoes, quite surprised, 63% is sitting at. I thought that given that that's the critic one, it might be a wee bit higher. I didn't think they would hit the 60s, and we all know, like, when it's on Rotten Tomatoes at that, it's going to go down. So you're probably talking that will finish maybe the end of the weekend down in the 40s. And then your final one, IMDb, Rotten Tomatoes, Google, 4.3.
Really?
Yeah, so that's really, really high for a Google review.
I mean, if I was to score it myself, I'd give it about a 5.5 or a 6 out of 10.
Yeah.
I'm just conscious of the fact that in the past we've scored things really lowly, and the other things have scored them higher.
Yeah. I mean, everybody's. When I had a quick look at the reviews before we've done this, a lot of people just saying the exact same things that we did, but a couple of people are obviously scoring it incredibly high. Just tasteless people.
Same one that scored the Old Guard high, probably.
Yes. Let's not talk about that film, Nathan, because I'm hearing even more rumours that there's going to be a sequel.
Yeah.
But hopefully they do it a little bit better than that. Hopefully they do it a little bit better than that, because it has, again, like this, it had a lot of room for improvements. But hey ho. Well, thank you very much for joining us, guys. And thank you very much for Nick for your first time on an episode. And we'll hopefully have you back for something a little bit more Marvel DCA next time rather than just a standard film review. Obviously, it was a kind of superhero-esque film, so it kind of really fits in as. But thanks very much for joining us, Nathan.
No bother.
And thank you very much, Nick.
See you later, guys.
We can do this all day.